What if I told you that the entire global financial system is being quietly rebuilt right now, and almost nobody outside of elite banking circles is even aware of it? We are not talking about a small update or a minor upgrade. We are talking about institutions holding a combined $200 trillion in assets, completely rewiring how money moves around this planet using blockchain technology. And the most insane part is that the timelines are not years away anymore. We are talking about later this year, October, July, first quarter of 2026. These are locked-in production dates, not predictions, not rumors, not speculation. So if you have been waiting for a sign that this is real and this is actually happening, then this video is exactly what you need to watch right now. Because by the time we finish, you are going to understand the full picture in a way that very few people on this planet currently do. Let me start with Euroclear because most people scrolling through social media have absolutely no idea what this institution actually is and why it matters so much. Euroclear is the most important post-trade financial market infrastructure in Europe. It acts as the central securities depository, settling trades and safekeeping securities for banks, central banks, and the biggest financial institutions in the world. They currently hold over $43 trillion in assets under custody, and every single month they process the equivalent of the entire world GDP flowing through their books. Just sit with that number for a moment. The entire economic output of every country on Earth combined, processed by a single institution every 30 days. If Euroclear ever faced a serious disruption tomorrow, bond markets would freeze, equity markets would struggle, fund markets across Europe and beyond would not be able to settle trades, distribute cash flows, or move collateral. That is how deeply embedded this institution is in the foundation of global finance. And they are now officially and publicly moving from experimental pilots into full real-world production with tokenization and blockchain technology. The leadership at Euroclear explained the journey they have been on in three very distinct phases. The first phase was purely ideological, where blockchain represented a new way of thinking about money and assets and ownership. The second phase was technological, where everyone was focused on making the actual technology work at a basic level. And now in this third phase, which they called infrastructural, the entire focus has shifted to building the right rails and infrastructure to operate at genuine global institutional scale. And they were crystal clear about what that requires. You need tokenization capabilities to bring assets on chain in the first place. You need digital asset custody and wallet infrastructure to serve as the gateway for clients to actually access and interact with those assets. And you need interoperable networks because no serious person in this space believes anymore that one single blockchain is going to handle everything. The future is multi-chain, and the infrastructure being built right now reflects exactly that reality. On the American side, you have DTCC, and if Euroclear is the backbone of European finance, then DTCC is the backbone of American finance, sitting on $114 trillion in assets. And they are moving in perfect parallel with Euroclear at the exact same moment in history. DTCC recently received regulatory relief from the SEC, allowing them to operate a tokenization service for a defined period while they report back to regulators and scale things up responsibly. They described their own approach as crawl, walk, run, and they openly admitted they are in the crawl phase right now. But here is what makes this so significant and why people need to pay attention. In July of this year, DTCC is hosting a live production event. Not a pilot, not a test. A real production event where actual participants will bring real live traditional securities, tokenize those assets on chain, and run different test cases across different protocols and at least 2 different blockchains in a single day. Then in October, the full service goes live for real. Canton and Stellar are already publicly confirmed as connected blockchains, and more announcements are coming as the months progress. The philosophy DTCC laid out is incredibly important to understand. They are not picking one blockchain and declaring it the winner. They are building what they described as shared market infrastructure that connects to multiple blockchains simultaneously and allows assets to move across different use cases depending on what the counterparty needs and what the specific situation requires. They want to be the central hub that absorbs the complexity so that banks and financial institutions do not have to figure out the blockchain question on their own. That is an enormous role to play, and it puts DTCC right at the absolute center of the entire tokenized asset ecosystem as it scales up globally. Now, here is where Ripple and XRP enter this conversation directly, and this is honestly the part that deserves the most attention. Ripple has not been sitting on the sidelines watching this happen. They have been inside these conversations for years, building real relationships with the most powerful financial institutions on Earth. Brad Garlinghouse has shared stages with the chief executive of Euroclear at major industry events. Cassie Crott from Ripple has appeared on panels alongside Euroclear, DTCC, and Swift simultaneously. Reese Merrick from Ripple has stood on stage next to senior executives from Standard Chartered Bank and Euroclear at the same time. These are not accidental overlaps or coincidences. Ripple is deeply embedded in understanding Euroclear's infrastructure and has been positioning itself as a settlement solution provider for exactly this kind of institutional scale movement of value. The Bank of France has made public statements on multiple occasions praising the XRP Ledger infrastructure as highly suitable for central bank digital currency development through Ripple. Euroclear is now working directly with the Bank of France on a €300 billion tokenization project targeting one of the largest short-term debt markets in existence. SG Forge, which is the crypto and digital asset division of Société Générale, one of Europe's biggest banks, has officially announced it will issue its euro-backed stablecoin directly on the XRP Ledger, as well as the Stellar blockchain. This is private banking infrastructure connecting directly to interoperable global networks, including Ripple, Canton, Stellar, and Euroclear, all simultaneously operating together. Beyond that, Europe has already documented the use of Ripple infrastructure for standardizing high-value payments between major investment banks. XRP, Stellar, and Algorand have all been formally documented as participants in what is being called the European Ledger, which is essentially a unified single financial market infrastructure for Europe, evolving from the existing T2S system that currently handles settlement of security transactions in central bank money. The vision for this European ledger is to bring together tokenized central bank money, commercial bank money, and other digital assets, all operating on one shared programmable platform where smart contracts and programmable money can do things that traditional finance has never been capable of doing before. Clearstream and Euroclear have also jointly confirmed that beginning in the first quarter of 2026, the euro bond market, which is a €14 trillion asset class and the third largest debt market in the entire world, will completely eliminate physical paper certificates and shift to fully dematerialized digital issuance. This is not a vague future aspiration. This is a confirmed industry-wide transition with a locked-in timeline that sets the stage for full lifecycle digitization and the eventual deep integration of distributed ledger technology across the entire Eurobond ecosystem. When you step back and try to absorb the full scope of what is being assembled here, the numbers become genuinely staggering. Euroclear alone holds 43 trillion, Clearstream holds 20 trillion, DTCC holds 114 trillion. The global debt market in total sits at approximately $400 trillion. And when you factor in every asset class across the entire global financial system, the total addressable market reaches $1.4 quadrillion. Even moving a fraction of a percent of that value through this new tokenized infrastructure would represent wealth creation and technological disruption on a scale that has no real historical comparison. What we are watching unfold in real time right now is the crawl phase of something that could become the most significant financial infrastructure upgrade in modern history. The regulations are clearing simultaneously in Europe and the United States for the first time. The partnerships between the world's most systemically important financial institutions and blockchain networks are confirmed and publicly documented. The production timelines are set and counting down. The synchronization that Euroclear leadership talked about getting regulatory readiness, technological capability, and institutional client demand all aligned and moving together at scale, is genuinely happening right now and not in some theoretical future. The question everyone is wrestling with is how long this crawl phase actually lasts before the walk begins, and then before everything accelerates into a full run. 6 months, a year, 2 years. Nobody has a precise answer because the pace depends on how smoothly the early production events go and how quickly regulators become comfortable expanding access and removing constraints. But what history consistently shows is that once foundational infrastructure locks in and early production runs successfully, the adoption curve tends to steepen much faster than even the optimists expected. The window that exists right now, while all of this is still being assembled and prices still reflect deep uncertainty and speculation, is a window that has a natural expiration date. And that expiration date gets closer every time one of these institutions makes another announcement, hits another production milestone, or brings another $1 trillion worth of assets one step closer to living on chain.